In the 4th century CE, a Persian scholar compiled a list of the 4 greatest empires on Earth. He named Rome. He named Persia. He named China. And the 4th, an African kingdom most people today have never heard of. It controlled the trade routes between Rome and India. It minted its own gold coins, found as far away as Sri Lanka. It conquered the kingdom of Kush, and it became the first nation on earth to put the Christian cross on its currency, decades before Rome did. This is the Aksumite Empire. And the fact that you don't know its name tells you everything about how history was written. Aksum flourished from the 1st century CE to the 10th century, nearly 1,000 years. Its heart was in the highlands of what is today northern Ethiopia and Eritrea, a landlocked plateau. But don't let that fool you. Aksum's secret was the Red Sea. The port of Adulis sat at the crossroads of every major trade route in the ancient world. Ships from Rome, Persia, India, and China all passed through Aksumite waters. Whoever controlled Adulis controlled the world's supply chains, and at its peak, between the 3rd and 6th centuries CE, Aksum controlled them completely. The story of Aksum's rise begins with geography and one commodity: ivory. Rome had an insatiable appetite for elephant ivory, for furniture, sculptures, jewelry, and status symbols. And the African highlands were full of elephants. Aksum became the middleman between Rome's wealth and Africa's resources. But they didn't stay middlemen for long. By the 3rd century CE, Aksum had expanded its control into southern Arabia, modern-day Yemen, giving it ports on both sides of the Red Sea. Now they didn't just trade the route, they owned it. And then came the move that changed everything. Aksum started minting its own coins. In the ancient world, only the most powerful states minted their own currency. Rome did it. Persia did it. Now Aksum did it, in gold, silver, and bronze, using the same weight standard as Roman coins. Aksumite coins have been found in India, in Arabia, across the Mediterranean. This was not a local kingdom. This was a global financial power. By the 4th century CE, Aksum reached the height of its power. And at the center of it all was one king, Ezana. King Ezana didn't just rule a trading empire. He made a decision that would echo for 1,700 years. In 325 CE, the same decade Rome was officially embracing Christianity, King Ezana converted Aksum to Christianity. But here is the detail that changes everything. Ezana didn't just convert personally, he made it the official state religion. And he put the Christian cross on Aksum's coins. Aksum was the first nation on earth to use the cross as a state symbol. Years before it appeared on Roman coins. Centuries before most of Europe was Christian. And then Ezana did something even more extraordinary. In 350 CE, he led his armies north and conquered the ancient kingdom of Kush. Kush had existed for over 1,000 years. It had once ruled Egypt itself. Ezana ended it. His inscription describing the conquest, carved into stone, still stands in Aksum today. It is one of the oldest written military records in African history. Their achievements were staggering. The Aksumite obelisks, carved from single pieces of granite, stood over 30 meters tall. The largest stone monolith ever erected in human history. Rome had its Colosseum. Aksum had towers of stone that required engineering we still don't fully understand. But here is what didn't disappear. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, one of the oldest Christian institutions on earth, traces its direct lineage to King Ezana's conversion in 325 CE. Over 40 million Ethiopians worship in this tradition today. The Ge'ez alphabet, developed in Aksum, is still used in Ethiopian and Eritrean religious texts. It is one of the few ancient writing systems still in active use anywhere on Earth. And the obelisks? It's one of them, stolen by Mussolini's forces in 1937, was only returned to Ethiopia in 2005. It took 68 years for the world to give Aksum back what was taken. There is one more connection that almost nobody talks about. Aksum is believed by many scholars to be the resting place of the Ark of the Covenant. The Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Aksum claims to hold it to this day. Whether true or not, the fact that this claim exists and has persisted for 1,700 years tells you something about how deeply this civilization embedded itself in human memory. 3 things Aksum teaches us that still apply today. 1. Your network is your moat until it isn't. Aksum's greatest strength was controlling the trade routes. But when the routes moved, Aksum had nothing else. The lesson, never build your entire strategy around infrastructure you don't own. The Red Sea belonged to geography, not to Aksum. Think about that in 26. Every business built entirely on one platform, one algorithm, one distributor, one supply chain, is making the same mistake Aksum made. The platform can change its rules overnight. Aksum had no backup plan. Do you? 2. Soft power outlasts hard power. Aksum's armies are gone. Its ports are ruins. But its religion, its alphabet, its cultural identity are still alive in 40 million people. What you build in people's hearts lasts longer than what you build in stone. The most valuable companies in the world today are not the ones with the most physical assets. They are the ones that became part of how people think. Apple, Google, Coca-Cola. Aksum understood this 1,700 years before the concept had a name. 3. The history you don't know is shaping the world you live in. Every time you use an alphabet, you are using a system that connects back to Phoenicia. Every time Ethiopia appears in global news, you are watching the descendants of Aksum navigate a world that largely forgot their ancestors built it. The civilizations we ignore are often the ones that shaped us most. Which means the most important question is never, what do I know? But what am I missing? Here is what I want to leave you with. A 4th century Persian scholar looked at the world and named 4 great powers: Rome, Persia, China, and Aksum. 12 centuries later, a European described Ethiopia as a kingdom cut off from civilization. He had no idea he was standing in the shadow of one of the ancient world's greatest empires. The story of Aksum is not just African history. It is the story of how history gets written and who gets left out. Here is my question for you. If Aksum had maintained its Red Sea ports, do you think African history would look different today? Tell me in the comments. I will pin the most interesting answer. Subscribe, prompt. Next episode, the Indus Valley Civilization, the cities that had plumbing before Rome. Teaser. Like plus share prompt.